Hey guys, it's Con Hollywood Studios here, and as many of you know, if not all of you know, it was recently announced by Six Flags Great Adventure that Bizarro will be rethemed to Medusa for the 2022 season. This caught a lot of fans by surprise because there were so many hints alluding to a DC retheme of Bizarro. But in this video, we're going to examine if there actually was going to be a DC retheme to, say, the Riddler or Aquaman, and if there was, why it didn't happen. So first, let's take a trip all the way back to November of 2021, where on November 4th, I believe, the first bonus day of Great Adventure, there was bright green track and orange supports spotted on the track segment of Bizarro. I took a video of this, posted it, and I immediately called that it would probably be rethemed to the Riddler. There were a few reasons for this. For one, the track color and supports were very similar to other Riddler-themed coasters in the Six Flags chain, like Riddler Revenge at Six Flags New England and Riddler's Revenge at Six Flags Magic Mountain. When I saw it, I thought right away, oh, this has to be Riddler. There's no way it could be anything else. Not long after that, the park began teasing the Riddler. You can see right here in this screenshot that there was a teaser for the Riddler posted to the park's Instagram story, which to me further reinforced that Bizarro would be rethemed to Riddler. I mean, why else would they put that on their story? They don't have a ride themed to the Riddler. The Batman movie was nowhere near coming out at that point. It just came out now, and there was no reason for them to put that up there other than a teaser for Bizarro. Another rumor that was swirling around was that Bizarro was actually going to be rethemed to Aquaman instead of the Riddler, because the color scheme matched Aquaman a little more so than Riddler, because the supports are a lot more orange on Bizarro, or I should say Medusa, than they were yellow, and that I could definitely see too. Both characters had movies coming out in 2022. Of course, the Riddler is a prominent Batman villain being featured in the Batman movie, and Aquaman is getting a sequel this year. So, what happened? Obviously, we all thought that it was going to be one of the two, and when the park announced Medusa, we were all very surprised. I have a couple of theories regarding this situation. One thing I see being a possibility is that the park did originally intend on going for a DC retheme. Whether that was Riddler or Aquaman, it doesn't really matter. Point is that they were definitely looking to retheme the ride to the Riddler or Aquaman. They already had the paint purchased, they were all ready to go for this retheme. But what if DC got the request from Six Flags, or however licensing works? I honestly do have no clue how licensing to DC works, but what if DC saw what they were trying to do and said, no, let's not do that? Well, maybe that's what led them to theme it to Medusa. I mean, think, what else were they going to do? Still call it Bizarro? That just doesn't make any sense. And they obviously couldn't use the Riddler or Aquaman theme because they wouldn't have had the permission by DC to do it. So they likely had to pick something, and they figured they'd just go back to Medusa because it was well known, it was fan favorite, and it was just a good decision overall. This is also relatively similar to my other idea, which is that the park saw the feedback from guests as to what kind of theme they would like to see Bizarro go to, and I think it's safe to say that many fans and park goers alike just wanted Medusa back. It was better as Medusa as it was. Of course, Bizarro did add some really great special effects like the fire and mist, but in the end, Medusa is a better fit theme for the Frontier Adventures area. So this is pretty much where we come to a crossroads. Which do I think happened? Well, I think it could be either or a combination of both. It's definitely very possible that DC may have refused to give them the licensing rights for Riddler or Aquaman on this ride, which is already a pretty old coaster. It's over 20 years old at this point. It's gone through 2 name changes, and maybe they weren't willing to switch Bizarro to a different superhero. Maybe they were just willing to let it go all entirely. However, I find this kind of unlikely because DC definitely loves to license out their themes to Six Flags, and for them to out of nowhere reject one is kind of strange considering there's really nothing peculiar or particular about this case that's different than any other. I mean, they rethemed Mindbender at Six Flags Over Georgia to the Riddler Mindbender. They rethemed Mind Eraser at Six Flags New England to the Riddler Revenge. So I don't really see what's too different about this case, other than the fact that they're retheming a DC ride to a different DC hero, which maybe DC would have had an issue with. They are currently using the Bizarro character on the CW's Superman and Lois show, so maybe they wouldn't have wanted people to see it in that way, where it looks like Bizarro is getting replaced or being made obsolete. Obviously, this is all just speculation on my end. I don't really know what their ideas or thinkings were here, but maybe they had an issue with the color scheme that would go along with Riddler or Aquaman, whichever they were originally going for. I mean, the color scheme doesn't really fully match Riddler, and I can definitely see how people have an argument for that, because the support color just is kind of off. It doesn't really make too much sense to be Riddler. It's very orange-ish compared to what it should be, which is yellowish, or in my opinion, it should really just be purple and green. But with Aquaman 2, it would have been kind of strange. I mean, granted, his suit is green and orange, but we've only seen one Aquaman-themed coaster in the entire Six Flags chain, which is not even open yet and is going through quite a few delays. And Aquaman is probably not just the best suit for a ride like this, which is a Atlantis theme in a Frontier Adventures area, which really doesn't make any sense at all. I really do hope that my second idea, which is that the park saw fan feedback and decided that it'd be better off to change it to Medusa, I really hope that is the case, because that really does show that parks are willing to adapt and change to what their fans want. It's very, very cool to see when a park hears their fans' feedback and actually takes it. Because I'm sure, as many of you know, other parks always say, oh yeah, we'll listen to your feedback, what do you guys want in the park, whatever. And typically it doesn't happen. But in this case, it seems like we got exactly what we wanted, which is the return of Medusa. One last thing I do want to bring up before the end of the video is something I've actually seen a lot more than I would have expected, which is people bringing up the fact that Medusa is actually a character in the DC Comics. And this is very true. Medusa is a character in the DC Comics, but Medusa is also more well known for her role in Greek mythology and other mythologies, and just for being the lady with a bunch of snakes on her head. So I don't think they're really going for the DC route, especially because they already told us that they're going for a Gold Rush era backstory, and as far as I know, Medusa in the DC Comics has absolutely no ties to the Gold Rush. Another thing about this whole idea of Medusa being the one from the DC Comics is actually related to Dr. Diabolical's cliffhanger opening at Six Flags Fiesta Texas this year. Dr. Diabolical, as far as I know, is also a character in the DC Comics, but I'm pretty sure they are actually not using the character's origins from DC Comics to theme the ride. It is a completely original theme, just that the name happens to be someone from the DC Comics, but they are not actually using the DC licensing for the ride. And that seems to be the case here with Medusa as well, as they're creating a completely unique and original backstory for Medusa here at Great Adventure. Now this is part one of 2 videos. The next video is actually going to be taking a deeper look into the whole DC theming at Six Flags parks, and to really examine what the future is of DC theming at Six Flags parks. Obviously we have a new CEO in the park, and it's very interesting to see what route he's going to go down, whether or not he wants to keep pushing DC licensing in the parks, or if he wants to get rid of it. But that's a topic for the next video. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Definitely let me know what you guys think their route might have been, whether or not DC rejected licensing, or they just chose to change it by themselves to Medusa. Of course, I'm Colin from Hollywood Studios, and I'll see you all in the next video.